Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming to this session. Again, I'll present myself. My name is Tony Almir. I work for YMCA of Lebanon. Actually, it's not just work. This is a part of my family also. As we say, this is YMCA is a big family on national and global level. So my name is Tony Almir. I'm here also as a member of the Community of Impact, which was created by the World Alliance, YMCA World Alliance in 2019, to support the World Alliance in programs and projects related to youth employment and enterprise. In this summit, our role is the capacity building of YMCA members and practitioners on different tools from basically the situation analysis and needs assessment to monitoring and evaluation. So this is the third session today and the final one. It's complementary to the first two sessions, which was needs assessment and situation analysis, combining on something called context analysis. The second session was related to project design and design tools like logical framework approach and theory of change. And now we come to monitoring and evaluation as part of the management of the project. First, I want to ask you for the who wants the presentation. After I finish, I will send it to you. Please put your names in the doc I will share now in the chat box. And please also write your name and from where you are in the chat box, so we can know each other. So it's now this online trainings, it's a bit different. We don't get the chance to formally meet, but also it's good to have an idea, people who are attending and from which country. So also on monitoring evaluation, there's in the resource libraries, there's a couple of videos that explain a bit about monitoring, evaluation, and data. You can also pick up some videos from there and watch it. And that's it. Let's start with the session. The session actually is quite compact. It's quite it contains a lot of information. I'll try to be brief as much as possible, and at the same time also to offer all the information related to evaluation. But don't worry, I can send you later on the presentation, which contain links at the end, which will share more resources, and you can connect with me via email or via phone. I added my phone number on the list. So let's get started. So what we are going to learn in this session is actually quite compact. As you can see, there's 10 things, 10 components that I need to focus on. But mainly, let's make it into three most important sections. First, we want to introduce monitoring and evaluation. What is monitoring? What is evaluation? What is the difference between them? Second section is choosing data collection methods. We're going to talk about data collection methods and how to choose best of these data collection methods to benefit our project or our organization. Thirdly, we're going to talk briefly about data analysis. And lastly, we have 5 minutes for Q&A and for sharing the links that I prepared for you in the presentation. So let's start first with introducing monitoring and evaluation. So what is monitoring evaluation? What is the difference between monitoring and evaluation? describe. We want to learn also to describe the evaluation, because there's many types of evaluation. Here we're going to describe 3 types of evaluation. We are going to relate the monitoring evaluation with the logical module, which we had learned in the previous session. Hopefully, if you were there at the session on logical modules. And also at the end, we're going to define what are the common terms for M&E, or monitoring and evaluation. So let's start. What is monitoring? Monitoring is an ongoing process. What means an ongoing? It's repetitive that we make, an action that we make on a daily basis. Basically, we do monitoring in a regular to observe all what is happening in our projects. We create specific tools for monitoring, and of course we use the same data collected from this monitoring in our evaluation, but mainly we create the tools for monitoring. Monitoring is done basically by a project team. That, like, we need to plan it earlier to that, and I mentioned in the previous session that one of the components is to assign the tasks and the roles to different team members, and here comes the monitoring and evaluation assigned to specific staff members, and also the monitoring evaluation need to be very clear on what we are working on, the current activities that we are focusing on, because the staff need to learn about what is working and what is not. So who is responsible of project monitoring? Basically, most of the program staff. This is why we say monitoring is assigned by roles, not to person, because from the management to the officers or the monitoring officers, most of them are responsible on the monitoring checkup. So we assign roles and actually to the monitoring. So the roles are basically, I will showcase it as it is written: collecting the data, entering the data, because also it should be a flow where the data is entered, and there's a mechanism for this. Do we use technology or different type of methodologies in entering the data, like Excel sheet or whatever? Checking the quality of data, and this should be also, this is very important, because the quality of data is very important for the evaluation and for the learning process. Analyzing the data, this is also a role. Making sure the project design is logically sound. Here I want to get to relate back with you on the logical framework we just in the previous session we talked about, and the theory of change. During the monitoring, we make sure that our assumptions and our thoughts are actually working or not. Is the logic, the intervention logic that we created, is working on the ground or not? This is monitoring. Making sure that the data collected through ongoing project monitoring is meaningful. What does it mean, meaningful? Meaningful, that it is relatable to the project. It actually, it could create an understanding about how the project is functioning, and also it's clear. At the sixth element of the roles is helping the project team to learn what they want to learn about the project. So most of the learning about indicators should be put in monitoring tools. Wait a sec. Okay, now what is evaluation? So evaluation is actually different than monitoring. Evaluation is executed in a period of time, like we usually we assign evaluation in like periodic time frame, either quarterly or 2 times per project life cycle. So, and basically it relies on the same monitoring process and methodologies. They take the monitoring data actually, through the collection mechanism that we create, and it analyzes information at a certain point of time. So maybe twice during the project, or maybe on a quarterly basis. It depends on how much activities you have in the project and what you do with this kind of evaluation. Why an evaluation is needed? For example, we can do something called inception evaluation, where after 3 months of the project, we have this process of collecting data and sit together to evaluate the outcome, the process, and the implementation. And we have an inception report where we do the changes with tweaks. So there's a lot of flexibility here when you want to use it as a tool, the evaluation. So basically, we're going to talk now on 3 types of evaluation. There's implementation evaluation, or a process evaluation, which basically evaluate how we are reacting or how we are implementing the project, and it evaluate the process, the performance. The outcome evaluation, it's the result evaluation, and the impact evaluation, it's on a broader scale, the result implementation. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about each of the evaluations separately. So the implementation or the process evaluation. So it could be called implementation evaluation or process evaluation. For me, I find it more relatable, process evaluation. So here we ask the following questions. What factors influence the project results? And here we ask these questions to see how we are performing exactly. As a team members, how the partners are performing, how beneficiaries are performing or responding to our service or to our project activities. Second question: what's the theoretical basis of the project? Was the theoretical basis correct? So here also we evaluate whether when we put the intervention logic within the framework with all the elements all together, that was correct. Were we right about imagining the changes and the pathway? Were project activities implemented as planned? Is this like, did we do any change in the project activity before implementing, or we used the same framework we created initially? Was the project cost efficient and cost effective? Which means the budgeting that we did for the project was correct, or it was we overspent or we underspent. Here, the time to evaluate. Did we reach the people we intended to reach with the intended services? If not, why? So here we're talking about reachability, not about result. Not about if we achieve the things we want to achieve with people. Only here we are asking, did we reach the people? So this is 2 different questions. We ask actually, did we achieve what we want to achieve with people? We ask them in the next type of evaluation, the outcome evaluation. So the outcome evaluation is briefly evaluating the result. We promised to train 100 people on farming. Did we train 100 people yet, or we still need to train 20 to complete the number of beneficiaries that we promised? Did we train them and we promise in the project that their income will increase, will help them to increase their income? We need to evaluate this. What exactly did the percentage of increase in their income happened or not? So we need to study all of these. So when we say outcomes evaluation, we means the results evaluation. So we ask 3 questions. Did we see the changes we expected to see? We expected and planned, and we put it on a logical frame, and we put it in a theory of change. Is that what we imagined or not, the results? How valuable or substantial were these changes? So did we reach a certain change that we expected, or we overachieved, or we underachieved? But is there a big difference in the plus and in the minus? Did we see any unintended results? So here, with the outcomes evaluation, we assess whether the things we are doing or the activities we are doing are doing either a harm to the communities that we didn't intend to, which in the previous session, two of the participants indicated this. Sometimes changes could be gone into the wrong way. So how do we know? We need to stop at some point while we're implementing the project and say, what are the results? Are they are we talking about good change? Are we going to? So these are the outcomes evaluation. And lastly, about the evaluations, we have the impact evaluation. And here the impact evaluation, usually it is made after the project is finished, like it's post-project. And it focuses on the sustainability of results. What I mean by sustainability, by how the results are continuing. For example, if it's related to training people to increase their income after a year, their income kept at the same level than when we finish the project. So also we ask two questions. Did our interventions work? First of all, so the overall estimation. Did our work activities reach the target and actually made the changes or achieve the result? Did we see the changes we expected, and can we say that those changes happened because of our program? Because sometimes, the changes happen without our intervention, even if it's positive. So we brag that we did this project and the community have boomed, but actually there's so many factors that we assessed during the PASTEL analysis. There are many factors that intervene with this. It could be not in our influence sphere that these changes happen, but we need also to be realistic. Does our project made this huge impact, or does our project in this environment actually had a very positive impact and had a multiplier effect, or the overall direction of the communities was positively toward what the changes we wanted to see? So in impact evaluation, you pinpoint all of these terms. So let's link the monitoring evaluation I'm talking about with the logical model. So the logical model that we talked about in the previous sessions basically was to design a project, But I also emphasized that it can be used to design a project and also during the implementation phase. Very important, because the monitoring evaluation depend very much on the logical module, because it depends on how the framework was built and how the indicators were introduced to the activities in the framework, and it depends also on the story, on the logical frame story. So it depends deeply on the pathway. So because monitoring is about supervising the pathway, evaluation is about pinpointing in a certain period of time how we are performing and what kind of changes we are actually doing. So it's very important to make this link. We use the design phase through flexible tools such as logical frame and theory of change in order to use it in managing the project, especially monitoring and evaluation. So why we do this? Because we want strong evidence-based justification. When we want to say we want this change and that change, we need figures. We need the actual data, actual stories. We cannot rely on assumptions. Second, it helps us to define what we aim or what we want to achieve when we put it in a logical frame. And finally, it also divide the pathway into multiple timeline, multiple milestone where we can monitor and evaluate the results and our performance at the same time. As I was referring, the three dimension of evaluation: process, outcomes, and impact. So the main terms in M&E, I will be very quick because you saw it already. Basically, as I said, the monitoring and evaluation depends very much on the logical frame, and the logical frame is based on key result chain. So the basic terminology that you will find in monitoring and evaluation are the key result chain. So that you have the outcomes, you have the outputs, you have indicators. Of course, objective and goal are the main component of result chain. So all of this comes together during the implementation. Now, the relationship between monitoring and evaluation, we know the what divide them. The relationship is evaluations relies on good monitoring system and monitoring data. So evaluation relies on monitoring. It's not like a separate entity. It's actually, you need to have a monitoring system in order to have proper evaluation. Both monitoring and evaluation require understanding of the project theory of change. You need to understand what is going on, what we need, what we are doing, the activities, what we aim for. And when I say you need, I mean the whole. So it's not just about the management or the monitoring team or the officers. And lastly, both require the selection of indicators to assess performance. So the base of all the monitoring and evaluation system is setting a proper indicators. So let's do a recap. Till now, we showcased what is monitoring and who does it, and we showcased what is evaluation, the three types of evaluation: impact, outcome, process evaluation, and what is the intersection in between. Is somebody like? Do we have any question about this, or I continue? You put it all in the Q&A. Hopefully, we'll have time to answer it at the end. Anybody have any question? Okay, so I will continue. The second component of the session is choosing data collection methods. So this is very important. This is like, I think also it's the backbone for monitoring. So we are going to explain in this section, explain why data collection methods matter. We're gonna explain a bit about the 5 questions that we ask to help us to choose the appropriate methods. And finally, to determine when and when not to use certain common methods. So it's also a quick section. This is why I'm gonna try to speed up. Okay, we have a question. Please put it in the Q&A. I will answer it at the end. Okay, so what are data collection methods?
Things like the most
Sorry? Please, can you put the questions in the Q&A? Okay.
I was saying that the diagnosis will be spacing from, and
Okay.
we just wait a couple of minutes for him to come back at the stage. But we can continue to share our thoughts and our reflection on the chat. And if you have some question, you can just ask them. And when we will come back, we will just look at it and we will answer.
Okay, thank you, Eugene. I memorized the question. I will get back to it, Junior. Yeah, I will just showcase what are the data collection methods. The data collection, it's basically it's a tool that we create when we are at the implementation phase. Sorry, Eugene, can you mute yourself? Okay. What are data collection methods? It's basically tools that we recreate when we are at the implementation phase. It is used to systematically gather information. It's also not solely for implementation phase. You can use this data. You can use data collection for designing or also implementing and monitoring and evaluation. So we can use it for project design. So, for example, as collecting data prior to while we are grant writing to a donor, we collect data just to do a context analysis. Like we showcase in the first section.
Everyone can see me, because I just want to be sure that it's not me who have the problem. Just to check.
No, yes.
Can you tell me if you can hear and see me? Because I'm trying to join Tony.
Yes, yes. Can you hear me, Eugene?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your answers. We are trying to join Tony so that he can come back. Give us a couple of minutes for us to do that. Thank you.
Okay. So, so the data collection methods are basically to systematically gather information. When we say systematically, that means we need to create tools. We need to create ways to collect this data and a way to actually put this data into a framework, put it in some sort of data warehouse. And second of all, we use data collection to generate knowledge and fills evidence gaps. And this is basically what we do when we go into when we do a project design or situation analysis, or also needs assessment. Okay, why data collection methods matter? Data collection matters in, of course, it's basically, as I said, it's a backbone of the monitoring, and we have we have two dimensions to discuss here: the data collection methods for implementation and data collection methods for research and pre-project design. So in the implementation, the data collection help to determine whether or not we can collect the information we need, because for sure in a different context there might be a very difficult circumstances that won't be forgiven for your staff team to go there and collect this information. When we recreate data collection, we actually think about this and determine what is the best data collection method. Second, they help shape the possible conclusion where we're able to draw about our problem. So when we put the data collection method, we actually emphasize by process it in our mind and on paper in our tools, what kind of conclusion, what kind of information that we need in order to understand what is happening in our program. Thirdly, also they can have implications on our program budget and staffing needs and the way the project is functional actually. So and we will see it later on in this session, how we need to think about the resources for data collection. So it could be if it is costly, you need to rethink about the method itself, or you do another blending. So on the other side, why do data collection methods matter for research? So it's so for research or for pre-project design, it's because when we are reaching out and researching our external environment and trying to understand what is happening around us, it's vital to ask questions and to ask questions and to get information in a systematic way. And when we say systematic way, we need a method for this. So collecting data collection here, it's essential to understand data collection methods. The second thing is we need to understand how we'll be collecting in the future, how we'll be collecting information about the program and about results. The data collection methods also help us define what exactly and how exactly we will be doing this. Now we jump to the 5 questions we ask for data collection. So when we are thinking about data collection methods, we need to ask ourselves these 5 questions. What do we need to learn and why? What type of information do we need? Who can provide this information? What data collection methods would enable me to collect this information? And finally, what human and financial resources do we need to collect this information? Now, I will link this to the logical framework approach or to the theory of change. When we ask, what do we need to learn and why? So we need to think about the pathway, right? We need to link. We need to see what kind of pathway we imagined at first, and what kind of information we need to teach us what is happening during the time that we are spending toward our goal or toward the change that we want to see. Second question is, what type of information do we need? What type of information do we need? Qualitative information, quantitative information. And here comes also the linkage with the, when we what we are
and what will produce, what will be the outputs.
So
when we ask this question,
what type of information do we need? Do we need information that bridge with the outputs, because the outputs are actually the consequence or the result of the activities. So we need to understand exactly what type of information we need to get to understand what happened on the outputs level. So this is very important to do this linkage, because the logical framework will be also the implementation tool, and through the monitoring evaluation also all the time. It's really continuous, understandable, and clear when we link these questions together. Now, who can provide this information? Go back to the theory of change when we ask ourselves, who are our audience, and who are the key point, the reaching point or the entry point to reach our audience. Here we ask, who can provide this information? What data collection method would enable me to collect this information? Here we were talking about the data collection now. And finally, what human and financial resources do we need to collect this information for? So also, I want to go back to the framework, though we didn't talk about resources and how to put it in the framework, but I usually use it in the logical frame. I usually put in the output all the budget for the output, not the output, sorry, the outcome. I put all the related budget to this outcome in the outcome section, in the description. So because for me, it's clear when I do the budgeting, I just use the framework itself. So this is how important it is to have a logical model where we can actually breathe the problem and understand how to resolve it. So I'm going to go to the first question. What do we need to learn and why? Here, first thing we do, we broadly define what we want to learn. So we set like broadly, what do we want to learn about the project, about the performance, about the pathway, about the activities. And then when we have in front of us what we want to learn, we go into deep specific questions, like relative specific questions. We put a list of questions that we want answered. And lastly, we reflect on these questions. So it's not enough just to put a question and say, hey, I have a list. No, you need to reflect on these questions, because first, these questions need to be important for you. You don't put questions that are not important, are not relatable or related to the indicators you already put in the framework. It doesn't make any sense. And it's also very important to put to see if it's actually feasible or realizable. Can you ask these questions when you are with your audience. For example, in our context in Lebanon, we have Syrian refugees. We always do this. We always put surveys, and we always try to relate to the culture of refugees and to where they came from. And we just ask ourselves: is this questions like permissible? Can I ask this question to a woman, for example, from the refugees, or to a man from the refugees? Does it is it offensive to him? Or all these questions need to be reflected. The second question is, what type of information do we need? So there's two types of indicators. There's qualitative indicators and there's quantitative indicators. The qualitative indicators, it's about wording and stories. The quantitative indicators, it's about numbers. And actually, most of the projects depends on these two indicators. It's not just, you can choose one or another. You need the two type of information together to make sense of your project, to make sense of what is happening on the ground. So in the qualitative side, you need to answer why and how and under what circumstances. You need to answer also, can often explore opinions, feelings, and priorities, and also can help explain behavior or beliefs, offering understanding, depth understanding. On the quantitative side, can be standardized across a large population. So we can at some point say the majority of population reflect this answer. So it's most probably that is the correct information. Can often answer narrowly defined questions. So it's really specific. Can also help explain the nature, size, frequency, and distribution of the problem. And this is very important. Okay. Third question, who can provide this information? So there's three things to take into consideration. It could be either a client, a beneficiary, a partner, a staff. So we need to think about the factors that might affect the collection of information from this individual. For example, if in our community there's a special traditional case related to a man not talking directly to a woman, you need to think about that. It's also you need to ensure that data collection process integrate gender and culture and language. It actually defies what the example I just said. So when you're asking who can provide this information, and you think, like, for example, women refugees in informal tented settlements, and women refugees are not allowed to talk to men, you don't hire a man to go surveying these women. So you need to be you need to understand these type of challenges and responding to them. Especially, this is why we ask these questions: who can provide this information? So who I'll be sending, what kind of experience? Finally, also you need to be aware about the complexity, linguistic complexity. If you need a translator with you, if you need a trained person, or a different type of personality that can actually interview people easily, and so all these elements, you need to think about it when asking this question: who can provide this information? The fourth question is, what data collection method would enable me to collect this information? So basically, there's 5 kind of data collection methods. There's a focus, and in each data collection method, there's many sub methods. So you can use, for example, focus group in many, surveys in many ways. You can use interviews in many ways also. But there's basically 5 data collection methods: focus groups, observation, surveys, individual and in-depth interviews, and lastly is desk reviews. So the focus group is gathering 6 to 12 people together from a certain context that you want to learn from them, and you do you can do a question answer Q&A. you can do also. This is my favorite. I usually, especially with youth, I use a lot of gaming to produce amazing data. You have also observation. Here you need a bit of a sharp staff to do this, where you have like observation report with a checklist, and he go to the site and just put his notes and observations about. Usually it's done for performing evaluation. So to see, for example, how a partner is functioning, how the operation environment within a certain project. You have also surveys. You have multiple kinds of surveys. You have mini surveys. You have interview surveys where actually the staff member apply the information. You have surveys that actually is sent to the beneficiaries for them to fill the information. So there's many types of surveys, but basically the survey gives you a lot of information, and it can be generalized. It can showcase a generalized idea about a certain population that you choose to actually collect data from. Individual and in-depth interviews, usually we do that with key personnel, and it's also need a lot of talented staff, where you go and you have like a certain questionnaire, and you ask from your interlocutor, you ask the important question, and you register all what is being said, and you quote from it. And usually we use it specifically for key personnel. We don't use it for example, any beneficiaries or for randomly selected beneficiaries. And finally, the desk review. The desk review is actually when you try to see information that others have produced, like reading reports or read strategy paper from different organizations. So this is desk review. Usually, the best way is to combine to combine 2 or 3 collection methods together. This would like confirm the information you are having. From our experience in Lebanon, we use like mainly we combine focus group surveys and individual in-depth interview. I think this is the perfect combination. This is very judgmental, by the way. You don't take my word, but we always feel that this is the optimistic mixing of data collection methods that would actually give us a lot of information. Okay, and let me like go briefly into it. You need when you choose the data collection, when you choose the data collection method, you need to acknowledge or you need to understand what is the power dynamics. If you are in a patriarchal society or you're in a tribal society, you need to understand that you don't go right to what you think is your resource of information. Second, you need to inform people and ask consent before requesting information. You need to ensure that there's a confidentiality level, especially for people that are identified as, for example, asylum seeker or political asylum seeker specifically. And you need also to understand the concept of do no harm. You need to prevent any harm that might your data collection might actually expose others to. So the 5th question is actually about the human and financial resources do we need to collect this information. First, you need to make sure that the staff are appropriate for this any type of data collection you are asking for, culturally, linguistically, capacity-wise. You need also to acknowledge that this will require time and require funds, and you need to calculate the time and the fund that is required for this. Thirdly, you need to ensure the quality. You cannot do data parity is very important. You cannot just retrieve information that will what we say in computer science, when you enter trash, you get trash. So data and information need to be qualified, reliable, consistent. These are very important factor in data gathering. And finally, disseminate the results, share the results. So that's it about the data collection methods. We are going to now to introduce the data analysis and action planning. So I'm trying to go as fast as I can because we have, like, as Eugene mentioned, we have 15 minutes for the session. I know it's a lot of information. I apologize for this. I tried to compact everything in my presentation so you can benefit from the information at later stage for your reference. You can always go to the videos and watch it. And I will try also to go through all the presentation right away. So what is now data analysis and action planning? Why data analysis and action planning is useful? First. Second, how to prepare for meaningful data analysis. And this mainly, basically, I put this section from my own experience more than any other literature outside my knowledge. I will go through it. First, why do we collect and analyze data? So either for reporting to our project donors or to communicating with community members and stakeholders. Thirdly, for keeping our organization leader and board of director informed about the situation, our project, for making informed decisions to guide our project implementation, and lastly, to improve our programming. This is basically why we do analyze the data. Because by the way, you can collect data but you can also miss benefiting from this data if you don't do the analysis exercise every now and then. So how to do the data analysis? Just collecting the data isn't enough. You need to regularly connect and communicate and explore and doing this conversation about the data that you have. So you need, prior to that, you need to analyze it. So essentially, a team meeting is essential to data analysis. For example, in Lebanon, we do a senior meeting twice a month and staff meeting once per week, every Friday or every Monday, just for that, just to discuss about data and doing data analysis and just showcasing what is happening on the ground, on the field level. So we regularly analysis. First, to test our assumptions about what works and for whom, and I'll go back to the framework and to the theory of change, where for each action we envisioned and we put in the framework, we put an assumptions. So here, where we test our assumptions, the conversation is about is our thinking processing and thinking we're right. We're correct. What do we need to adjust? Second, communicate about our program to others and decisions about how to improve our program. Data collection is meaningless if we don't think about improving the program. Fourth, defining the team's learning priorities. So here, let's to discuss knowledge capture through data analysis and data collection. What we are doing, actually, we are capturing a huge, substantial knowledge. However, the project is small or big, you are capturing valuable knowledge. And this knowledge, this information is actually can be monetized later. So capturing the knowledge is the new trend in monitoring and evaluation. The learning, so we call it MAL, monitoring, evaluation, and learning. So this is why also it's very important to do a systematic analysis to the data we are getting. And finally, we need to think beyond reporting the data. We need to think about how this data will be beneficial for me in the future. So collecting the right data is also, I refer you back to the logical frame where we put the indicators together. And this need another session. Indicators usually picking up the indicators is a very important factor for the monitoring, evaluation, and for the holistic approach for the project design. So we need to be very cautious and very aware in picking indicators. Indicators need to be specific, need to be measurable, need to be attainable, need to be relevant and time-bound. So we call it SMART indicators. So specific, and I have a video in the resource library. It explains more about this, so please go and watch it. Specific, it needs to be very specific. It cannot be blurry. It needs to be measurable, either qualitative or quantitative. It needs to be measurable. So we need to put a tool that actually have a scale where we can, it's a number of its story. We can put it in action. Attainable, it's reachable. Actually, you can get this information. Relevant, it's relevant to the project. You cannot put indicators in one dimension and the project is on another dimension. You cannot ask about women, for example, gender equality indicators into a training on farming. It's totally different. So you need to be very, very cautious about this. And time-bound, the indicators also need to reflect in a timetable. You need to gather information in a time pinpoint, so you can evaluate. Okay. We need to ensure the data is high quality, so we need to make sure that the data are coming on time as we planned. It needs to be complete. It needs to be correct, and it needs to be consistent. Basically, this is when you do the analysis, you need to make sure that these 4 factors are there. They call it 3 C's criteria, and the timely on the other side, on the time on the other side. I think fine, and okay. And we have also the managing the data effectively. In this whole process, you need to figure out how to manage the data effectively. So you cannot overwrite data. You need to keep the data, and you need to the data need to be collectively saved and timely saved. It doesn't need the new data do not need to delete the older data. It needs to be systematic. So this is why we always suggest to create a dashboard report. A dashboard report can contain a history of the data you are collecting, and also the other suggestion is to structure a spreadsheet, to structure it in a way that all the data entry that are being made along the project life cycles are well preserved in the spreadsheets. I think lastly, presenting the data need to be clear. It's critical to be clear, and you can do it through infographic visualization. The second thing is you don't need a visualization expert to present your data. It's enough to showcase it in a chart. You can showcase it in a story, and during the summit there's one of the actual session is about showcasing data through storytelling. And lastly, consider setting up a data dashboard with a graph, so it's easy for people to visualize all the information you are providing. So to wrap up, we just explore what is monitoring and evaluation, what is data collection methods, what is data analysis and action planning. So let's see if we have some questions so we can answer it. Do we still have time, Eugene? Okay, there's one question is, how is documents of theory of change and logical framework relate with learn as you go and other changing scenarios? It's an excellent question. It's really an excellent question. And let me answer it briefly. Can I answer it, Eugene?
Yes, we have 2 minutes or 3 minutes left, and you can answer that question.
Excellent. So after we start the project, if we have pre-project design, if we prepared a framework and a theory of change before the project, when we start the implementation, we usually produce a document called MEL plan, or Monitoring and Evaluation and Learning Plan. And this MEL plan, actually, it contains a matrix for the indicators, and contain how you will collect the data and how you'll showcase the data, and who's responsible of the data collection, what is the data collection method that you're using, what are the tools that you create for the data collection, and lastly, the learning component. The learning component is how you will frame all the data and the data analysis into lessons, and you put it into lessons. So these are showcased in a document. Usually now it's required. It's called MEL plan, and I can share with you, if I have your email on the Excel sheet, I can share with you a template that we use in Lebanon. It usually showcases everything, including the learning component, and how it is related to the logical frame. Any other questions? The junior is asking, no, it's not dependent from each other. The different type of evaluation are not dependent of each other, but you can also use it as a tool, independent tool. For example, you can do an implementation evaluation, or a process evaluation, which like solely evaluate the performance of your staff, of your organization. You can do that. So that could be separate from all the other evaluations, but it will for sure will have to deal, or will have to extract the monitoring data.
Thank you a lot, Tony. I think, as you have said, the session is recorded and will be available after the summit. And you have additional resources in the resource library, where you can find some other tools that Tony has developed in order to help us to understand what is project management, theory of change, and all those things. Just go there and you will find more video on the topic. I think we will end for today, and we will catch up tomorrow for the continuation of the summit. And just take your agenda. I think we will start at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. Geneva time, and so take your time, because the hoping is giving us the time according to our location. Just take a bit and just be connected at time. We will have more topic tomorrow. Just join us and continue to enjoy this summit. Have a nice evening, have a nice afternoon, have a nice morning, and may God bless all of you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Eugene. Thank you.
Bye.
Just I want to mention one thing. There's a links in the presentation that you can find resources. Can I share the screen just to show them, Eugene, before we leave?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry for that, but okay. So I put in the presentation here a useful link. So these useful links are: first, there's a free training on M&E on Disaster Ready. It's really nice. I went and saw it. You can use it. There's a guide to write an M&E plan, and this is to you, Junior. You can actually use it and I can send you also. I can send you a template. Also, there's a guide on how to write M&E framework. And lastly, and the very important, is the ILO developing results frame. It's really holistic. Go and see it. It's like a 20-page resource. Is not much, but there's a lot of information in it. So I will send it to you, and hope it will help you in your endeavor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, love, Tony. See you. Goodbye to everyone.
Bye.